Hi, everybody. Welcome on into another episode of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. And no, you don't need to adjust your screen or your AirPods. I do have my original double play partner back here with me, Mr. James Ellifritz. How we doing tonight, James?
Oh my gosh. I'm doing okay. It's been a buzzsaw today. A lot going on, but for a lot of good reasons, staying busy, but glad to get this episode recorded with you tonight and talk about our favorite baseball team.
The summer's gone. The
I
summer,
know.
we snapped our fingers and it's over.
Yeah.
Both had, some family stuff, couple little mini vacations, and just life, like you said, staying busy.
And I remember us talking at the beginning of the season how I remember mentioning to you, I was like, this roster we look at on day one is going to look so different later in the year. But who knew when I said, hey, please give me some veterans, that it was going to be Cole Calhoun, Raymond Noodles, whatever his name is from the A's, and Noah Syndergaard. I mean,
hey, Mr. Rahman should have had a 2-run bomb tonight. That was an outstanding catch by TJ Friedel.
I did see that, yes.
Whoever's watching, we are recording this like towards the end of the game, but let's be honest, it's just one of those games. You just kind of take the L, try to take some positives from it. And James, that's kind of since the last time we spoke, obviously, we're talking about the trade deadline. What kind of position would this team be in? Would they be buyers? Would they be sellers? And you and I personally haven't really spoke about the trade deadline yet. And I think Chris Antonetti did a very good job making the most of the resources that he had. I wanted to be frustrated that we didn't do more on the buying side, but when I kind of look at how the trade deadline played out as a whole, not too many guys that we expected to get moved ended up getting moved. I mean, Lane Thomas is still with Washington, Dylan Carlson still with St. Louis. The Orioles hung on to their outfielders. They just scooped up Jack Flaherty. So, I mean, when it comes to Josh Bell, he was going to pick up that player option. Aaron Savali, I mean, he would have been the 5 in this rotation. He's often injured. I think you were able to sell high on him I don't think his value would have got any higher. And on Pipeline's midseason rankings, Kyle Manzardo is already the 2nd ranked prospect in our system. So I think that's a pretty good haul. I think it's just kind of adjusted how I view this team going forward, which really just helps the viewing experience because I'm not getting frustrated and strictly looking at wins and losses. How are you feeling about where the team is today compared to last time we spoke?
It's just odd because it's, last year, if you look at the Browns season when they started with Jacoby at quarterback, it felt like a lot of people, including myself, it almost was like a wasted season because we knew Deshaun was just waiting to get in the wings. This year, it's kind of, for me, this baseball season has turned more from where it was contention. Can we do it? Can we finally catch fire? Can we do it? Trade deadline comes around. Hey, looks like we're still going to hang on. Let's just get hot down the end. And it's just not happening. Now, what's hot is our starting pitching, our rookie starting pitching, which has been incredible. Blows our mind. And it's the big bright spot that we can talk about tonight.
Yeah, and you mentioned the starters, and it's really not even close. I mean, since the All-Star break, they have the best earned run average in all of Major League Baseball with a 2.63 ERA. Toronto's 2nd at 3.18. So like a half a run difference, they're leading baseball by. And you mentioned how we knew the team would look different after the trade deadline, and we just didn't know how. I mean, think if you were in like a coma for like the first 3 months of the season and you wake up and it's August 2nd and you're like, oh, are the Guardians in first place? And you look and we have a starting rotation of Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, Logan Allen, 3 rookies, Xavier Curry, who was the long man. Really just it played out that way. Hunter Gaddis initially won that long man role out of spring training. And then you have Noah Syndergaard. Like, that's going to make for one hell of an immaculate grid one day. You just randomly Thor is in a Cleveland Guardians uniform now. He actually pitched tonight and kind of got lit up a little bit in small American ballpark or whatever they call it nowadays.
It's a nice park. I was there last year. I enjoyed it.
It's like kind of in Kentucky though. It's like in the water, and the water. I went down to Tennessee twice this year, and I'm telling my fiance, I'm like, those two stadiums are in Kentucky. They're touching the water, and the water is touching Kentucky. Like, you can't get closer to Kentucky than those ballparks.
Well, didn't I tell you what we did last Fourth? We stayed in Kentucky and went to Newport Aquarium. We stayed in the hotel next to it. But when we went to the Reds Mets game, we walked across the bridge and went to the game. And I purposely bought tickets. I don't remember if we talked about this, but I purposely bought tickets on the upper side, on third base side, because their ticket office told me it's a great spot because not only will you see the 4th of July fireworks from the game, but I have video of it where you look across the water during the game and you can see people in Kentucky just firing fireworks off.
You just have average people's fireworks and then the professional ones from the parks.
But when the stadium started shooting them off over in Kentucky, they were like, all right, let's go. So that's the first time I ever seen fireworks in 2 different states at the same time. It was a neat experience.
Yeah, it really is. It's a unique layout down there, but that small park was not a good fit for Noah Syndergaard. He only lasted 4 1/3 innings. The defense behind him just wasn't solid tonight. I know Bo Naylor had to come in the game for Cam Gallagher after he took a foul tip off the face, but he made a couple bad plays behind the plate. Jose had an error. They just didn't seem fully, just one of those nights with some growing pains. Mm-hmm. Gabriel Arias did hit a home run off a lefty, which was tremendous to see. I think that was only his 6th hit off left-handed pitching all year in 50-some at-bats. So tremendous to see for Gabriel Arias. And just to kind of segue, the starters are the best in baseball right now since the break. But what's up with that bullpen, right? And I know we're still top 5 in the game overall, just when you kind of look at stats for the whole year. But since the All-Star break, it kind of just feels like the worst. And I know they're not. I know there's still a lot of talent in that bullpen. I think it just gets magnified because every single game feels like there's no room for error. Like you mentioned, we've just kind of been waiting for this offense to take off and kind of show a little bit of that spark that they had last year. Obviously, with Josh Naylor on the injured list now, they've had to move Jose up to the 2 spot recently, which I thought that dream was dead. They move him up to the 2 hole, try to get him some protection behind him in the lineup. Just haven't really been able to get much going consistently. So I think that kind of exemplifies these struggles of the bullpen because they still have the 5th best bullpen ERA throughout the whole year. They're 9th in FIP, but they do have the 10th worst Ks per 9. So maybe part of it's they're just not missing as many bats as we're used to. But I'm not super concerned. I just think bullpens are volatile and the margins have just been really slim. So I'm not panicking.
Yeah, remember when we talked about, I mentioned in the offseason or the preseason preview that, bullpens can be hot and cold per year. So we had a great year last year. This year, we had a great year. I would say a very good year going into the All-Star break. But for me, when you have that lack of run support for this long throughout the season, it's tough for those guys to continue to stay locked in when they see us falling back in contention game by game. Where we're down 4 games, we're behind 4 games. Now we're only 2 back. Can we do it? It's a lot mentally, let alone physically, to maintain your focus. Think about and go back to when I'm gonna bring it up again. The Cleveland Browns. How many bad quarterbacks we had, and how many times we can't score points. You keep leaning on that defense time and time and time again, and then the offense doesn't come through. it's just that you're going to wear one side out. And I really think that's just where we're at with the bullpen.
Yeah, and it obviously with 3 rookies in that rotation, they said there's no hard innings caps. Like it's not like they're going to hit 120 innings and okay, they're shut down for the year. But Zach Meisel mentioned on the Selby as Godcast, they're kind of monitoring their recovery after starts. It's not much what happens within each start itself. It's more about when they're lifting and playing catch, are they getting fatigued or not? And all reports so far so good. I think Gavin Williams only threw 115 innings last year. So he's going to be getting up there, but you also kind of want to be able to get it to a point where next year he's not taking another huge leap. You kind of want to gradually build him up so he could get to 180, 195 type innings without it being such a significant leap where you're risking injuries and dead arm and all those types of things. But it's kind of like you said, it's almost for the players. I can imagine they're kind of feeling like we're feeling as fans. Like it's kind of just been a weird season where I feel like in addition to all the injuries and kind of the sophomore regression we kind of feared might happen with some guys, I just feel like they haven't had any luck this year. Like there has been any time a challenge, it's going the other team's way. Other teams rob home runs like happened with Ramon Laureano tonight. And it's just been one of those years where the ball's not quite bouncing their way. So James, any other time you're like, okay, we're looking towards 2024. What can we kind of pull from each game that's a positive that, shows a sign of hope for our future? But even with the loss tonight, they're 4.5 out. I mean, the Twins are not running away with the division. And I think we had both said that at the beginning of the year. Like, you're going to be in it till the end. Even if you don't perform up to the level most everybody expected them to, you're never just going to be fully out of it in this division. So I imagine for the kids, too, it's kind of Tito's probably doing a lot of managing emotions and expectations with such young players while also trying to win games. And it makes you kind of frustrated. It took till the trade deadline to start really evaluating Brian Rocchio and Gabriel Arias, and Tyler Freeman was hurt. So now that Tyler Freeman came back tonight, it's going to be really interesting to see how they start working those 3 guys in the lineup together, because I've liked what I've seen from a lot of them in these couple weeks.
Yeah, and I'm looking right now at the Twins record, 63-59.
It's pathetic.
If we would have been able, if we would have knew that record back when we were doing our preseason predictions, like, hey, Minnesota's going to be sitting at that record, we'd think we'd have a double-digit lead in the division, like it's old school AL Central of the 90s teams with big leads in the division. But no, obviously that did not happen this year.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if we remember my preseason prediction? I said that we were going to our at the end of the season, one of our best additions was going to be start down into minor leagues, but come up, and it was going to be Gavin Williams. I didn't no way I thought he was coming up that early. I didn't think Bybee was coming up that early. We discussed whether or not Logan Allen would maybe be kind of forced into that rotation just so we can get a left-hander in there. And he's
you were fantastic. High on him. You were ready.
Well, not really high. It was more about the left-handed pitcher to be in the rotation more so than anything. I didn't really know that much about him other than, he was one of the next up and comers. So yeah,
that break did him good too. When he went down right around the All-Star break, I think that really helped rejuvenate him. And that's just kind of how you got to monitor these rookie pitchers. Do they need a little break? Do they need to go with 6 guys in the rotation in September? Right. Things like that. So that's all things they're going to kind of just have to continue to play by ear. But I think it's definitely helped manage my expectations of what to expect the last couple months and how to just better enjoy it. Because I know when those cold days in December hit, I'm going to be looking back and I'd take an ugly game like tonight just to see some baseball. So it's kind of like just pull some positives from each game. Like I said, tonight it would probably be that Gabriel Arias home run, especially off a left-handed hitter. I think it's easy to see he's got 20 plus home run power in that bat. So I think even through the struggles, I think it's imperative they continue to play him nearly every single day. Even when he struggles, you have to get a good look at him because he's still young, just like Brian Rocchio, right? They're young guys, but they're ready. There's really nothing left to prove at the minor league level. So I think with all these middle infielders they have, I don't think it's that crazy to want to get a star out of the shortstop position because they've invested so much of their draft capital and their international signing money into a shortstop. It's like, I don't want just an average shortstop out of that group. Like, I really hope they continue to evaluate and pick the guy they think gives them that kind of star potential. That's my one request for the rest of the year.
I mean, we're definitely, it looks like the direction we're heading is more developmental than it is contention. Where I felt
except Cole Calhoun, James. That's Tito's boy. He's such a Tito guy. It's so funny we got him because he's such a Tito guy. And every time Tito talks about him, he's like, oh, he's a grinder. He just loves playing the game of baseball. And that, like, he's been hitting. So, like, I don't even have any complaints there.
I get it from a baseball side, but from a business side of baseball, it's just, we're dealing with the great value version of veterans. Right now. So
we don't need a trade. We're going to attack the waiver wire on August 3rd.
It's rough. But the only glimmer of hope that I have for the rest of the year, and I was riding that we're going to get hot. We're going to somehow get into the playoffs and get some upsets and maybe shock the world. But right now, what I'm looking at is if we could be around that 3-game behind range going into Monday, August 28th, that's the 3-game series against Minnesota at Minnesota. We got
crazier things have happened.
Yeah, we got to take, and especially with the Twins. I mean, we're going to play against our mirror image of two teams that just can't get out of their own way.
We have 6 games left against them, if you think about it.
So that's the stretch I'm looking at. It's Monday, August 28th through Wednesday, September 6th. So you got 3 at Minnesota, and then you got 3 at home against the Rays, and then Minnesota comes to town for 3 right there. So those are basically playoff games right there. And you're going to know come Wednesday, September 6th, whether or not the rest of the entire season, which is not much, it's only a few weeks there, whether or not we're even could somehow grab this division. I don't understand how Minnesota has been at the same, damn near the same record as we have all year. Like, you think they would be able to you think Minnesota would have what we had last year, this year, like this is their bounce back year, and they still can't get out of their own way. Last year it was all the injuries at the end of last year. We started to pull away those last few series that we had with them, and they I don't even know if I want to watch. If they end up winning division, I don't know if I want to watch their playoff series.
No, they're getting swept. They won't break their drought with their current team. And I keep saying, don't let the kids get hot, and don't let Tristan and Shane Bieber come back and make a start or 2 in September, even if they're only giving you 3-4 innings. Because, I mean, that's the elephant in the room. Is Tristan McKenzie going to need Tommy John surgery or not? And I think that news, when that comes out, probably in a couple weeks here, that's going to have a big impact on 2024, obviously. We just saw it came out yesterday, Shane McClanahan needs Tommy John surgery, and that's just a bummer for the game of baseball because he's a tremendous pitcher and he's fun to watch. But that's a big thing. But I have this whole Cinderella story in my head that we're going to keep hanging 3-4 back, kind of like we did last year. And we're going to take care of business in those head-to-head games. I still have not given up the idea, though. I'm not going to be sad or disappointed if we don't win the division, but I would not be surprised at all if we do. I guess that's the best way where my head is at with this team on August 16th, which, trust me, my expectations were we'd have a 6-7 game lead by now, and we're gearing up for October. But it's the way the ball bounces sometimes. You just gotta. But I'll tell you, Tito cooked with the lineup tonight, and those are the games we lose. It's just the weirdest thing. Like, we can get on Tito about lineups all day, but as we know, the guy's got to perform at the end of the day. Like, I loved that lineup today. You got Tyler Freeman in there. You had Arias at first. You had Jose in there with Rocchio over on the left side of the infield. And not mad about Miles Straw right now. He found his bat. He's coming back and hitting, so I'm going to give Miles a break. Obviously, I had a whole Cam Gallagher thing I was going to say, but he left the game today after taking a foul ball off his face. So I just hope Cam Gallagher's okay. And I guess all I'll say about that is I think Bo Naylor needs to know that he's playing because, again, rookie struggles, but he didn't look great when he came in the game.
You know, this is something that while you and I hadn't been recording, I mentioned to Derek in a text. I said, Derek feels like the Cleveland Clippers because we got so many guys up here from AAA, and I'm like, how AAA do we want to get? And it almost feels that way. And the amount of talent that we have down in the minor leagues, if you look in the standings, it doesn't show. It almost looks like what we're doing at the major league level, where you have so many players moving, whether they're moving up or playing different positions. And that's what we got going on at the major league level. We got guys playing. Look, Arias was at first tonight. Freeman was at second. Rocchio at short. I mean, Jose was back, but those three guys have been interchangeable in the infield outside of Jose. And that maybe that's what it is. That's where our inconsistency lies, is we have so many guys playing so many different areas, different positions around the field. It's hard to get a good rhythm, maybe, whether offense or defense.
And we're starting to see these sophomore guys. The rookies are figuring it out. They all have great moments. Now the hope is they can continue to build off that. But now you have the sophomores kind of picking it up. Oscar Gonzalez, so far, not counting tonight, but on this road trip, he's 6 for 14 with 3 doubles, which were all in the same game, and 3 runs batted in. Stephen Kwan was on a 5-game hitting streak, hitting .391 with 3 RBIs and 3 extra base hits. So if you can kind of find a way for the rookies to continue to just take a deep breath, like you don't need to carry everybody on your shoulders. You're not going to get sent immediately back down to AAA. Just play the game loose, be yourself, and they find some success, and you can kind of mesh that with the veterans, which are kids also, to kind of surround Jose and Josh Naylor. I think the offense could get going, but like I've literally been saying that for 4 months now. So like I'm glad we're at least seeing the fresh faces that we can evaluate instead of guys that you know aren't going to be on the team next year. But even the lineup, like with Ahmed out of that 2-hole, they've been able to put Jimenez in that 2-hole. He's been looking great in that 2-hole. It's almost like his approach just feels better. He's not just swinging at everything. He's being very selective. He's chasing less, and he's doing damage when he's hitting the ball now. Obviously, the last 2 games, we saw Jose up in that 2-hole, which I've been dreaming of since like 2017. And I thought he was kind of just always going to be cemented in that 2-hole. And not just that, but then Josh Bell obviously got traded to Miami for Khalil Watson, who's doing great at Lake County right now. But now you have that DH spot back open a little bit to kind of interchange some of these young guys to keep their bats in the lineup. But James, fair or foul, Miami fixed Josh Bell. Bell is such a huge topic.
What we learned is that Josh Bell only swings National League baseball bats. That's it. He doesn't own any American League baseball bats.
That was the whole issue.
Yeah, it was the National League. He just needed to get back there where he's comfortable. So that's all I got for him.
And
good luck.
Anybody who listens to this podcast or follows me on Twitter, you know that even when it was like really ugly with Josh Bell, I was always still a believer. because his expected stats always said consistently throughout the year, he should be doing better than he is. Why he wasn't, whether it was his launch angle, the balls just weren't finding holes. He just really wasn't getting the ball in the air enough. He had a lot of balls he's beaten into the ground, weak ground outs to the right side. But I knew a breakout was coming. So no, it's not Miami fixed his swing or Cleveland doesn't know about launch angle. It's just, it happened. Whether it was here, there, or anywhere that he went, the breakout was coming. And it's sad that it didn't happen with us. And I mentioned last week, I think it may scare Cleveland away from free agents a little bit more and kind of go back to that trade route that we're more accustomed to seeing them do. But I'm happy for him. I was always a big Josh Bell fan. I feel bad because I know his wife's family was from Youngstown, so I know they liked being close by, and they just had a baby, and I wish it could have worked out better for him here. Same with Zunino, really. We can't say the front office didn't try to address power, because they did. They did sign two guys who really should have increased the power outage. We have a power outage without them performing. The power output, but they didn't, and it just didn't work out. But again, Guardians lose tonight 7-2 in Cincinnati. They wrap up the series in Cincinnati tomorrow night with Xavier Curry on the bump. I don't have offhand who is going for the Reds. But if it's a lefty, probably someone that's going to make us look goofy again. Hopefully it's a right-handed pitcher. And then the Guardians are going to head home to open up a series against the Detroit Tigers, who, again, just helped us out and split a series with the Minnesota Twins. So keeps us 4.5 games back. You know, no harm, no foul at this point. And then we got the Dodgers coming in. Ahmed Rosario is going to be back in Cleveland. It's crazy how you could trade two guys at the deadline and you face them within like the first 2 weeks of the second half. So if you're sad Ahmed Rosario is gone, head on down to the ballpark, buy some tickets, and I'm sure he'd love to see you.
You can sit next to Mel at the game and then watch her enjoy the Ahmed Rosario tribute video when he comes up for his first at bat.
Man, I just hope he doesn't have like a game-winning infield single or something. Like, I'm going to be sick with it if he just somehow wins a game. I'm happy for him, though. I think he has a chance to go win a ring. And that was always the best case scenario for him. Trade him to a National League contender, right? Gives him a chance to still perform and be on a playoff team, and hopefully helps his free agency this offseason. Because, again, great dude. Great dude, and I'm glad he's finding success. But thank you all for joining us this week. We'll be back with you again next week. All the kiddos are going back to school. So anybody with kids out there, or if you're going back to school yourself, we hope you have a wonderful, successful, happy school year for either you or your children. But in the meantime, you got the homework done. Everything's all ready. Make sure you head on over to BelieveLandMediaLLC.com, where we have you covered on all the professional sports, college sports with Kent State and Ohio State and others, high school sports. We got football season kicking off. I know James is going to be covering some high school football games for us. So just make sure you head on over there. We got you covered with the articles and the podcasts. And make sure you're following the Guardians of the CLE Twitter page at GuardiansOTCLE for all the latest show news, guest notes, anything of that nature. We got you covered. Turn notifications on. You'll hear it there first. And James, you got anything before we get out of here?
And we want to say congratulations to the Baby Bull, Manny Ramirez, getting into the Cleveland Indians Hall of Fame as an Indian.
He was not a Guardian.
He was not a Guardian. So congratulations to him. He was so much fun to watch.
That'll be fun.
And ridiculous to watch at some point.
Yeah.
During his career. But
he had fun.
Heck yeah. You were always entertained. But yeah, it'd be nice to see Manny back in Cleveland this weekend.
Real quick, they were saying on the broadcast how he used to have checks in his car. He wouldn't cash, and he'd ask Paul Hoynes for money, and just totally. And then him with David Ortiz in Boston was hilarious too. It's just like, you never know what you're going to see when you watch Manny Ramirez play baseball. And I really appreciated that about him.
If anybody needs a story about uncashed checks, please Google Ricky Henderson. Please Google Ricky Henderson and his uncashed check. It's a great story. You'll love it. It's hilarious.
I'm going to check it out.
Yes.
But we're going to head on out of here. Until next week, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, have a good school year, and go Guardians.
Go Guards and go Browns.